Hi everyone and welcome back. So the next thing we are talking in the 12-factor app is the processes. How we can split the processes into stateless so they are not dependent on each other, and you can isolate if you have any kind of a sub process. So for that you can use PM2. It's all about something like this. So Node.js runs on the process, right? So here let's say this is a Node.js, and if you want to have some kind of a worker process, then you can create a worker process. I mean, there are different ways of doing it. You can use a cluster module to create a child process, or you can use a PM2. PM2 is a Node.js process manager. Using that you can actually create a multiple processes. So you can have one root process which is running your APIs, and one there can be another sub process running through PM2 only, that will take care of maybe some sub process or some scheduler in the background, but both are independent. Okay, so how can we achieve that using PM2? So what we can do is we can install PM2, and then we can have the processes. Okay, then another thing is how we manage all those things. Okay, so PM2, what PM2 does, using PM2 you can create a multiple instance of your even application also. So here let's say if I'm using PM2, then you can decide, okay, you want to use two instances of your Node.js core instance. Let's say you are running on the multi-core system, then you can create a two instance 1 and instance 2. And PM2, there is a child process or third-party process that also you can install, and that can be another independent instance, because here there will be some child.js file which is starting this process. So we can use PM2 to manage all those things. You can manage the logs, you can manage the health and all those things using PM2 commands. So let's see that here first of all I can install this globally, npm add PM2. So what PM2 does and all those things, we can also install it globally, so we can run the command globally. So npm, I will install that globally, something like this, npm install -gpm2, just to add this utility on the system. Okay, then if I want to do something like this, PM2 start -i, I think PM2 start, and then I can just do which Node.js file we wanted to run. This is server.js. So what it does is it has started the instance. Here you can actually visit the logs. Okay, because we are not passing the MongoDB URI, so it is failing right now. So what we can do is first we need to set this environment. So here I can create a script because PM2 I have installed already there. Here we can install PM2 start, and before doing that we also need to set the environment. And here I can do npm run PM2 start. Script already launched with okay, PM2 list. Maybe I need to kill this thing. PM2 delete 0. And here I do PM2 logs. Okay, then another thing is how to pass these environment variables to the PM2. There are a couple of ways. Either you can export this globally, okay, I need to delete this. Okay, the thing is, when it is starting this, it is not able to get which environment files to pick. I mean, there are many fixes. First we can do is in server.ts, currently it is looking for node env, and somehow the node env is not available. If I just try to print it also here, process.env .node_env. Okay, this is the variable we are using. And if I just start this, first delete this, and we can start PM2 logs, and that is coming undefined. So that's a problem, right? Because when the PM2 is starting, how we can feed the environment variables? So for that, I think we have to use the PM2 config and launch the process. So from the PM2 documentation, this is what you can do. I mean, you can create this ecosystem config.js file. Let's add this in our code base. And what this file will do is, here you will just tell, okay, how many instances you wanted to start, what is the environment variable, all the environment variable you will be passing somewhat here. So okay, my app name is 12 factor app, and the starting point of this app is dist server.js, instance 2, cluster mode, watch true, increment port is 3000, node env is development. Let's try this now. And once this file is there, how you can start the application? PM2 start ecosystem config.js. So go to your package.json, I can do simply like this, and then PM2 start. Maybe I need to delete the, okay, and I will just delete this instance which is on 0. Okay, I think now we are connected to the database, because otherwise you would have seen some exceptions coming. These are just like a warning. So we are connected to database, and there are two instance. If you just see what all we are using, PM2 list, there are two instances. So similarly, you can create a multiple instance. That depends on how many cores you have on your system. If there are like 4 cores, you can easily run four processes in the cluster mode, and they can utilize your system optimally. Let's say you have a one container where your APIs are running. So how you can scale that? So we can also talk about scalability before. Let's say I'm using PM2 to deploy my application, and then how many instances I can create. That depends on the scalability aspect. So let's say here is your system, maybe the AWS platform and all, and we can do two type of scaling of Node.js instances. That depends on the how many core and memory, because core is the processes and the memory is how much memory you need to run the process, right? So you can scale it two different ways: horizontal scaling and the vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling is, let's say I started adding multiple instances. Okay, this is AWS 1, then there is AWS instance 2 and 3, and all are one core instance, 1 core and 2 GB, let's say. What you can do is you can start a one PM2 instance on each and every server, and then you can just put a load balancer or something, so that your traffic can be optimally access these instances. Application load balancer, and you can talk to these instances. So what you will call this is a horizontal scaling, where you are actually increasing the number of instances. Currently we use mostly serverless and all the other containerized technologies, but this is how we were doing the horizontal scaling, where you are actually increasing the number of instances. And when it comes to the vertical scaling, we are trying to increase the capacity of just only one system. Here I will say, okay, I got 2 cores and I will say 4 GB is the memory of the system, and this is a 2 core. What I can do is I can instantiate 2 PM2 processes here, right? Because it's a 2 core, so you can have a PM2 process 1 here and PM2 process 2. 2 PM2 process, and you don't need a load balancer. You can just send a traffic directly to this instance. It will internally manages how to route the traffic to which instance. That is done by the PM2 when the instance is set. Okay, it divides the traffic into both the instances. But here we are specifying the 2 instances of the same Node.js process in the cluster mode. So they both will run in the cluster mode and they will share the traffic. So that is the vertical scaling by increasing the capacity of just a one system, like increasing the cores, increasing the memory. So that we can do here, like I can create a 4 instance also. Instance 4 cluster mode, and let's say if I do, it will add 2 more. You can see I'm doing instance 4. Okay, so 12 factor app. I can just delete 1 and 2, and then let me start again. PM2 list, PM2 logs. Yes, it is connected for all, and PM2 monet. These are some commands which can be used to monitor the traffic which is coming to these instances. Currently you can see the heap usage, memory usage, all these you can track from this. Let's see what all other important aspects of the PM2, because PM2 is giving you lots of options here inside these apps. Because why I'm talking about, you can create a multiple apps. This is the one. Let's say here I wanted to do V1 and this is V2. Maybe I'm running the same process or a different. Here you can run, let's say I have another child process, dist child.js. Then you can run those in the cluster mode. Here what I'm doing now is I'm trying to run two type of applications. I mean, I don't have any other child.js, so I'm trying to show you like I can have 2 different applications and I can have their individual 2 instances. PM2 list, PM2 delete, 0, 1, PM2 delete all should be there. Okay, here I can just do PM2 start. So here you can see there are 2 applications are running in the cluster mode individually. So V1 and the V2. That's important, right? So if you have any child process which you want to run in the cluster mode, you can specify another application, and you can also define how many instances you wanted to run for that application that will be executing. Maybe you have a child.js or something that we can take care. So this is the real importance of the PM2, and you can use this PM2 on at least on the system, like you are deploying it to the EC2 instance which is running 24/7. So you can use PM2 there to manage the logs, to manage the process, all those things which PM2 allows. I mean, PM2 also allows the key metrics and other other tools using which you can actually monitor the PM2 processes 24/7. So these are all the different, like how we are managing the processes. There are different commands. Configuration file, this is how we are configuring the ecosystem config. And you can do, while deploying, you don't need to restart it. You can just do a reload. So it will reload all the instances with the new code after deployment. So PM2 start only particular application, system config, cluster mode. This is how we run the cluster mode, right? So in Node.js also we have a cluster module. So it is just going to run all these processes in the cluster mode. PM2 a static server deployment system. You can create this ecosystem config. This is deployment options and all, and you can also have a Docker integrations. Monitoring PM2 monit is something. This is actually used for monitoring the tool and exposing the metrics. I think there is a key metrics tool is there. This is going to expose the metrics about the API. I mean, you can just do some kind of a health check. TX2 module is there. So it's really important. I used to use this before I moved to serverless to manage the processes, to monitor them, and all those things. You can just see the PM2 is really powerful tool to be used when you wanted to divide your application into multiple processes which can run individually. Okay, that's all about how we manage the child processes. Now in the next video we will talk about concurrency, right? I mean, the scaling out model, we have already seen how you can scale out by having a different processes and by having a different set of instances based on the core. I mean, how many core you have for the system where the Node.js is running.